There we go. Okay, so we're going to start with water and plants. So we talked about the properties of water and its polarity. I was trying to remember last class what unit that was in, and I could not remember. So, but we talked about water having polarity, so it has a partial negative charge on one side and a partial positive charge, and that kind of works like a magnet. So it kind of works like a magnet. So the water particles are attracted to the other side of another water particle. Okay. So for this reason, we have these kind of special qualities to water. One is that it sticks to other things. So that's adhesion. And the next is cohesion, which is the ability of water to stick to more water. So if you think about a dewdrop, on a blade of grass, you're seeing an example of both, okay? So cohesion, it's actually forming that dewdrop. It's got that attraction to itself, and it's staying in that like drop form. And then the adhesion is the fact that it's actually sticking to the blade of grass. It's okay, just I'm gonna be spoiled.
Smell it.
No, it smells fine.
Well, eat it. Enjoy it. Chop,
It
chop.
says December 2021. It smells like banana.
Oh, we passed December.
2021. And then capillary action. Wow, you could have missed.
Waste of food.
Yeah,
You could have gotten pudding on my wall.
but I made it. And it didn't get on your wall.
Wasted food.
So, and then you have capillary action. So because it has this like stick-to-itiveness of the water particles, it can actually move against gravity. So gravity is always pulling things down. And it can actually go against gravity. And yes, ma'am. Go up to today. Unit 10 materials. So the note packet is right there that we've been working.
The note packet,
Yeah, that's it.
the paper.
Oh, I think all my copies are gone. If you give me a little bit, I'll print another one. Okay, after I'm done going through this. Okay, so capillary action. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a capillary tube. Like if you're at the doctor and they prick your finger and they have that little glass tube and they suck up your blood in it. Yeah, not when they do your arm, but when they actually prick your finger. So that is an example of capillary action. So it's pulling the blood up into the tube. It's using the adhesion of the water that's in your blood to actually pull it up. Is everybody good on this slide? Can I move on? Somewhere. So this capillary action is actually what's working. You're welcome. In the vascular tissues of the plant, in order for the water to flow. Y'all are making too much noise. In order for the water to flow up the plant, okay? So that's capillary action in action. So water goes from the roots, use capillary action through the vascular system to get up to the shoots, and then water evaporates out of the stomata. All right. Raise your hand if you can tell me which type of vascular tissue it is that transports water. Anybody? It's either xylem or phloem.
Flow.
It's xylem.
I said it.
I know.
You said you.
I said raise your hand though. That's
No,
why I
you
did.
changed your mind.
She doubts herself. It's okay. So that is one of the blanks.
I spelled it.
XYLEM. Yeah, it's on there somewhere. Is that right? Yes. Oh, I like that pen. Ooh, felt tip. Okay, so xylem was that blank. Next one, which direction, and raise your hand if you know, which direction does this vascular tissue transport the water?
What are our options?
Oh, how many directions are there on a plant? Look at this picture.
Oh no.
Oh, you got the lead?
3.
So which direction does the vascular tissue transport the water? Take a chance. It's okay.
To the left.
I'm raising my hand.
Yes.
Oh.
Up. Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
No. That's
Upward. So the next blank is upward. Okay. So it's going from the roots to the top. All right. And then once it hits the leaves, it can evaporate out of the leaves. Okay. Adaptations. So we're on topic 4. I have a lot more on this and we'll get back to it later before we do the mini project, okay? But this is what's actually in your notes. Okay, so a couple adaptations that plants generally have would be a cuticle. So that's going to be a waxy protective outer coating. And it's going to surround the leaves and it's going to prevent water loss, okay? Not only that, but it makes it a little bit tougher, both on the environment and for any, I'm going to say predators, I guess that is the correct word, any predators, okay? Then we have the stomata, which I've mentioned, 5 million times up to this point, I feel like. So stomata are pores or like holes on the backside of the leaves. They're going to be there for gas exchange and then water evaporation. So think of the stomata as like the lungs of the plant because they're taking in CO2 that they need for photosynthesis. They're releasing oxygen, which is the product of photosynthesis. And then they're also releasing water vapor. And that's exactly what our lungs do, huh? Yes. Oh, you got distracted, so you didn't fill in those blanks. Yeah. Let's work on keeping the phone up, okay? Okay, so what happens is there are these 2 cells that are called guard cells. They're basically the opening of a stomata. So whenever it needs to take in more CO2, for example, the cells will actually like separate and create like a gap in between where those things can happen. Okay, you see right here, this is like a side view of some plant cells. The guard cell is right here, the bottom. So that's going to leave like an open pore for that gas exchange and that water evaporation. Everybody good on this slide? Thank you. Okay. I thought that, there we go. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. When it's open, the guard cells split apart from each other. They leave a little bit of a hole. And then when it's closed, the guard cells are closed tight on each other. Close up that hole. So the stomata would be closed, say if it's like it's been dry lately and there hasn't been a lot of water, or it's just a particularly hot day, maybe, the stomata will be closed in order to prevent that water vapor from escaping, because if the plant needs it for whatever's happening at that time, then it's going to keep that from escaping. Okay. Okay, a couple of more. Actually, I think this is the last one in this section. And then I'm going to go into more detail after we finish the next section. So carnivorous diets. So some plants have the ability to actually trap living things and digest them in order to acquire additional nutrients. So if they live somewhere where those nutrients weren't readily available in the soil, right? Because plants get all their nutrients from the soil. That's why you need fertilizer. So they get their nutrients from the soil, but sometimes the soil doesn't have everything they need. So in this case, the Venus flytrap that is pictured here adapted to be a little more sensitive to touch. And when something like a fly or a small bug lands in there, it will close on it, and it has some digestive enzymes that it excretes in order to digest the organism and then absorb the nutrients. Has anybody ever seen The Happening?
Yeah, I've seen the video.
Is this a scary movie?
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's about plants that evolved to kill us all.
Oh, that type of scary movie?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like Bloody Mary.
No. Okay, classification, last section. Okay, so we have two different categories of classification. So one of them is going to be general anatomy. So we talked about vascular plants, right? Xylem and phloem. That allows plants to get tall because they have the ability to transfer water up to a taller plant, and they have the ability to bring nutrients down from the tall leaves of a tall plant. So if they didn't have the vascular system, they have to be closer to the ground. So those will be non-vascular plants, are going to be more of your ground cover plants, something like moss. They don't have the ability to, they don't have that vascular system, so they can't transport water and they can't bring down nutrients. Okay, so that's one way. That's anatomy. The next way is reproductive methods. So what we talked about last class with the flower that we labeled, that would be an angiosperm. So angiosperms are flower bearing. And then if they are cone bearing, they're going to be gymnosperms. Okay. Oh, do you want me to go back? Sorry. All right. Anybody have any questions before I move on? Did you get that writing sample done by any chance? You did? You turned it in the classroom? Okay. Okay, so I have another PowerPoint about more specific plant adaptations. If you would like to write some of this down, feel free. It's a little bit more specific based on environment and certain conditions. There's a little bit of room under the adaptation section if you do want to write it down. We are going to finish topic 7 next class and then review for the test. Okay. Otherwise, if I could just have your attention, please. Okay, so we talked about the Venus flytraps, right? That one has a little something in there. This right here is a tropism, which is an adaptation. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about tropisms and hormones next class. This is phototropism. So basically the fact that plants can lean towards light to get more light. If you have any plants at home and they lean a lot, or maybe they're stretching, which is like growing really fast, but leaning kind of towards the light, that means you need to put them somewhere else where they're getting more light. Happens a lot with succulents. And then we have spikes and things like that to prevent things from coming to eat them. Okay, so adaptations to get food. This is like very basic, not super specific. Leaves and stems absorb energy from the sun for photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis itself is an adaptation. It is that endosymbiosis that we've talked about a couple times. So chloroplasts used to be autotrophic bacteria that could photosynthesize, right? They could make their own food. And then another cell, engulfed it. And then that situation worked out for them. So it just kind of stayed that way. So the cell was protection for the photosynthetic cell. And then the chloroplast reproduces independently from that cell, but it still stays inside of the cell. Okay. Behavioral adaptations, leaning and growing towards the sun, like I just talked about, phototropism. Roots growing down into the soil, that is called geotropism. So that's the effect that gravity has on plants. So if you had a little seedling and you planted it sideways, completely sideways, after a little while, the roots, you would see that the roots grew down anyway, and the plant grew up anyway. Okay. Vines climbing up trees is thigmotropism. So that's like sensitivity to touch. It's one of the words back here on the word wall, thigmotropism. And so that vine basically wants to get as close to sunlight as it can. It doesn't have the structural support that a tree does, so it just kind of leeches off the tree. Not necessarily taking any nutrients or anything from it. It's just using it as a ladder to get up into the sky. Unless it's kudzu, and then it's going to kill the tree. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the South, but kudzu is invasive and it's pretty, but it kills trees. Let's see, and then the Venus flytrap, that has the ability to actually eat things, really. Okay, so we've got geotropism happening here, and the root structures, difference in root structure.
You said that kills the plant.
What does?
Wait, what you say? You said that kills the trees or something?
Oh, kudzu does.
Oh.
Kudzu is like a vine, really strong vine, but it's invasive. It got brought over here from Asia, I think. And so it's super invasive. It doesn't have any natural predators that eat it, and it also is really hard to kill. So it basically grows over all the trees and blocks all of their light, and then they die. Okay, so adaptations to get water and nutrients. So roots have adapted to be better suited to soak up water and nutrients from the soil. They also have a relationship with bacteria in the soil. So I think I've talked about it before, but sometimes nitrogen in the soil isn't usually a usable form for plants. And so bacteria will fixate nitrogen so that it's able to be used by the plants, and then the plant can take it in. So that would be a symbiotic relationship as well. Mutualism is what that's called, when there's a mutual benefit for both. And then desert flowers can stay dormant for months, and they only come up when it rains. So the thing about dormancy and a lot of attributes like that is that everything that a plant is producing, whether it's like leaves or flowers or whatever, it costs the plant something. So it costs it nutrients, it costs it water and energy. So if it's not able to, get the things that it needs, it will kill off parts of itself. So those flowers only coming out when it rains is because it takes water to produce a flower. It takes energy to produce a flower. And if it's not, going to help it at that time when it's super dry, then it just won't be there. And a lot of bulb flowers that you see in the spring, those are the same way. They stay dormant in bulb form until the spring, and then they end up dying off when it gets too hot in the summer. Okay. So these are a few different adaptations. These are for reproduction purposes. The bottom, right? Yeah. It's a seed. I think it's a walnut. Pecan? There we go. And so different ways of attracting pollinators. So did I showed you guys the UV flowers or no? No? Okay, I'll show you. So flowers to pollinate, pollinators can see UV rays. So they see different colors than we do. They see colors differently than we do. It kind of looks like everything's under a black light. So those can kind of be, they're like landing pads for those pollinators, and they want to be attractive to them. So that's why they kind of come in bright colors and interesting patterns. We also have fruit. So fruit is a method of seed dispersal, because if the fruit is not, if it tastes good, the animal will eat it, and then it'll go somewhere else and poop out the seeds. So that's a way of creating gene flow, right? So we have the blackberries over here, and then the animal eats it. Obviously, it's not standing around there for hours and hours until it poops. So it's going way over somewhere else, and it's going to go poop out the seeds there. So that makes new plants in other areas where there is less competition. And then we also have nuts, kind of the same thing. They either fall from the tree and plant themselves right there, or they could get eaten, or maybe a squirrel picks one up and buries it and forgets all about it. And then something like the dandelion. So the dandelion has this very specific like seed dispersal method, this shape, this like little umbrella kind of shape. So dandelions start off as those little yellow flowers, and once they get pollinated, all these seeds come out of that. And then a gust of wind or somebody blowing on them spreads all those seeds out everywhere, and then you have more dandelions that pop up. Okay, nice. Okay, so I already mentioned all this. Okay, then we have kind of more lethal force, uncomfortable type of adaptations. So for defense, we can have things like spines or thorns, and they're going to protect the plant from predators. So something like this one with all these spines at the top, because, yeah, like little spines.
Oh, that's what they call it?
Yeah.
Those thorns.
I mean, you could call it thorns, but I think on a cactus it's called spines.
Oh, pricks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying, because I thought just looking at the spine.
Oh, no. So these cactuses, they have that cuticle, the waxy cuticle on the outside. It keeps more water on the inside. So if this is a desert dwelling plant, then guess what? Not only is the plant thirsty, all the animals in the environment are also thirsty. So what are they going to do? They're going to want to chomp on this because they know this has a lot of water in it. So instead, it has adapted to have these spines so that like a bird couldn't just sit on top and just get to its water source and basically kill the plant. And then same kind of thing with thorns, keep things from eating them. We also have things that are toxic. So poison ivy, poison oak. Generally, animals are pretty good about remembering what things are not supposed to eat and how bad of a reaction it gave to them or their friends. They're actually surprisingly smart like that. Okay, so then we have adaptations for different biomes. So like I said, in a desert, we're gonna be like thicker and better able to store water than a lot of other plants. We also have spines and things like that in order to keep predators from getting to our water. Okay, they're very hardy, drought resistant, and they also have shorter roots. So the roots are more right on the surface and they can soak up water really quickly because it's very hot out there. And so the water evaporates very rapidly after it rains. So they have to have their roots at the top so that the roots can absorb the water before it evaporates. Y'all chill. We have grassland. Nope. We have grassland adaptations. So they're going to have more deep roots because prairie fires happen quite often. It's a very dry area. So the deeper the roots, the more likely that they are to come back up after the fire if the roots didn't get hit. They try to lose less water, so they don't have as broad of leaves, and they're going to be flexible, so they can still stay in one piece even through the wind because it's grassland, so it's very flat. Okay, we have tundra. So tundra adaptations. This is a plant from the tundra. Tundras are frozen. We're starting our next and last unit after spring break. I don't know what's going on for the rest of the year. It's gonna be kind of crazy. So,
How many weeks you got for spring break?
huh? We have one more unit. How many weeks?
No,
We got 1 week, right?
she meant when do we start spring break?
Next week.
No, I know that.
So next week is.
We only have 1 week of spring
I
break.
thought it was.
Yes,
I thought
correct.
it-
What? Garland is this time.
I
Garland
thought
got
it
2
was
weeks.
this week at the end of Friday.
Yeah.
It is?
No.
So we have next Monday through Friday off.
No, I mean, does it start on Friday?
Well, I mean, we already don't have school. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. So we have school off next Monday through Friday, plus the weekend. So it's like
So after this.
9 days. 9
At the
days.
end of this week, we start spring break.
Yes.
Let's go.
Do you not understand?
Okay, so tundra plants are going to grow closer. Hey, all right, we're done. Tundra plants are going to grow closer to the ground for the warmth that comes up from the earth. They're going to have darker colored flowers so they can absorb the heat. So remember, this is like super cold. It's amazing that they live there in the first place. And then fuzzy stems to provide protection from the wind. So it's this cute little flower. Okay, and then we have rainforest adaptations. So bark that is meant to keep vines from killing trees. So if the vines do get out of hand, yeah, it will kill the tree because it's preventing it from getting sunlight. And then leaves that are shaped in order for rain to just slide off of it because they get a lot of rain and you don't want any rain sitting anywhere because it will develop fungus. Okay. And mold, yep. So the rainforest is actually where like orchids come from. I don't know if you've ever seen orchids at the grocery store. They're pretty popular, Phalaenopsis orchids. They're actually flowers that grow on the sides of trees. So they kind of grow like vines. That's why if you see, they're actually not planted in regular soil. Like plants, they're actually mostly planted in like bark, sometimes a little bit of moss, because they're used to that, they're adapted to that quick rainfall. They're sitting on the side of a tree. they absorb as much water as they can while it's raining, and then that's it. So if they're sitting in any water, they'll die really fast. Okay, then we have temperate forests. So this is kind of the forest we're kind of used to. Those are the trees we have, but since we're in Texas, we don't get, seasons quite as defined. But basically, they're gonna have thick bark, and then they're gonna lose those leaves when it starts getting colder because they're not getting as much sun. So they're putting all that energy into having those leaves there and keeping them alive. So if the leaves aren't able to get enough sunlight to photosynthesize, they're just gonna get rid of them and save their energy. You seen what? Fall?
I mean, yeah. Like,
So glad spring has started.
and the changing of the color.
Yeah, it's pretty. It just doesn't happen that often here. Okay, then we have water adaptations. So flexibility for water currents. So most plants will have some sort of way to anchor itself, like to the shore, to a shallow area, but it still needs to be able to kind of sway with the water. And then floating seeds, spread offspring. And that's it. I know that was long with like no writing to do, and you guys kind of lost focus there, but that's okay. As long as we get the major, I think that if you guys, once we get into ecology, which is next unit, you guys should be able to kind of look at a biome and be able to be like, okay, what would the adaptations be both for plants and animals to live in this area? So we have to be making those connections, okay? So I put this in the, it's in the classroom for you guys. I put it under the Unit 10 materials, just in case you need to go look at it or you want to write down anything else extraneous. So here's what we're doing for the rest of class. Project. It's okay. Look at it. By test day. Friday. Boy. But you guys have, what, 30 minutes? A little over 30 minutes? I guarantee you can finish this and have it turned in, okay? If you focus and stay awake. Okay. Can I get eyes and ears, please? Leisha, Deja, Luis, Dono, G. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is going to be a quiz grade, and it's like, I know sometimes I'm like, it's really easy quiz grade to get in or whatever, but I'm not kidding you. This is the easiest quiz grade you will have this year, okay? Pick a plant off of this list, all right? We put Wikipedia here as a source. I am allowing you to use Wikipedia as a source, okay? But here's the deal. Do not copy and paste. Some of you did not listen to me with the writing prompt about copying and pasting. I will give you a 0. I'll let you redo it, but I will give you a 0. So you can look it up on Wikipedia, read it, process what you read, and then put it in your own words, okay? Everybody good? You understand what I'm saying? Okay, thank you. Okay, so pick a plant from the list. Look it up. Put your plant here. Put what their adaptation is here. So, I don't know, whatever. Dandelion, seed dispersal method, or whatever. So put your adaptation here. And then right here, you're literally putting, why does the adaptation help that plant? Okay? And then a couple pictures if you want some bonus rates. I'm really trying to boost you guys at the beginning of the quarter. So if you have any questions, raise your hand now. Speak now or forever hold your peas. Good? Okay. You have the rest of class time to work. I expect over half of you to be done. So it would take you take you 10 minutes. Huh? It's 2. Yeah. Were you listening? You just list what adaptation your plant has and how that helps your plant. And then put pictures if you want extra points. Okay?